Okay, so in this video we can see that the first pipeline, the disputes APISpec pipeline, has just finished and all the tasks were successful. So let's go ahead and see what the output was. I'm going to go up to gitea and I'm going to change over to the apiops-gateway repo. And we can see that we have a pull request open. Disputes API version 1.1.0, cool. We've got one commit in there. Let's take a look at the files that have been changed. So we can see that we just opened up a PR, and the only thing in this PR is the APISpec for the disputes microservice. And we can in fact see that it also does have a new commit, so that's great. Make sure we're not crazy. Okay, so but at this point we still haven't done any governance validation or any of the operations aspects. So this APISpec has not been deployed to the Konnect-Sandbox runtime group, which is the objective of our second pipeline. So if we go to step 3, if you're following along with the Git repo, is where we're going to do the governance review and actually publish this API to the Konnect-Sandbox gateway environment / runtime group. What's going to happen in this pipeline is the following. This pipeline is called APIOps-Sandbox, more or less. And what's going to happen is we're going to fetch the security repository. We're still going to do our standard linting. We're also going to do our custom governance linting is going to be done in there. We then need to take that spec and start the conversion into what Konnect can understand. So that's a deck. So this is the third step, is convert this into a deck configuration. Convert the APISpec to a deck. We're going to actually do some updates to the deck. So we're going to add the mocking plugin so that we don't actually have a formal backend for where our microservice is deployed. And then we're going to execute deck sync. And deck sync is where we publish the deck configuration up to Konnect, and then it and then we'll be able to access the microservices, or I'll be able to access the gateway service. And that's what's going to happen. Okay, so in order to execute the second pipeline, go ahead and copy this this pipeline run command down here, and we'll navigate back to our terminal and go ahead and run it. So Control C, paste that in, and let's go. Okay, so that was created. Let's go navigate up to the Openshift console and see what's going on. So this pipeline is located in the apiops-gateway namespace. We can see we've got this pipeline run. It's called API-gateway-sandbox, and it's currently running. So it's fetching the repository. It's actually doing both linting tasks at the same time. It doesn't need to be linear. We can do some stuff in parallel. And then we've got the generation task. We actually have, because we're on Konnect 3, we actually have to do a deck conversion from version 2 to version 3. So that's the objective of this task. Adding the mock-in plugin, doing some additional prep work, and syncing it up to Konnect. So it's almost done, so we'll just go ahead and let this finish. Great, now it's updating the PR. Okay, so if we navigate back up to the Git repository, what we should see, the PR is still going to be open, but we can see there's more file changes. So let's go see what those are. So now you can see this was the original spec that we submitted under the first PR, and then it was updated with this is our deck configuration. This is actually what we synced up into Konnect. And down here we have the mock-in plugin. It has been enabled, and you can see we've actually also inserted the APISpec as well. Great. So we're going to go ahead and close this PR. So let me back. Or let's go ahead and approve it. So I'll just close it. Let's create a merge commit. Delete the branch. Create the merge commit. Lovely. That's great. Now we're actually going to navigate into Konnect and go see what happened. Let's do a refresh. Okay, so defaults and sandbox for us are synonymous, so we're going to click on the default runtime group. And we're actually going to go and look at gateway services. So now you can see we have a gateway service, and the host is Sandbox because we don't actually have a backend, so we made something up. Let's go ahead and look at our routes. And we have 2 routes in there. So the deck took our API spec, which had 2 endpoints, 2 REST endpoints defined, and converted them into 2 routes respectively, one for to retrieve that list and one to retrieve a particular dispute. If we look at the plugins, we can see that we've also got more plugins. We've got the mock-in plugin is configured on the gateway service, and then we've got key authentication required on the route. So what we can do now is navigate into Insomnia and see if we can hit this gateway. First, in order to do that, we need some facts. So open up your demo facts file and grab the Konnect-Sandbox JSON data, and then navigate into Insomnia. And in the bottom right of Insomnia, I want you to select Generate Request Collection. And that will actually deposit you into the Debug tab. But we need to set up our environments in Insomnia. So in the top left where it says Open API Sandbox 8080, I want you to select that drop down and navigate into Manage Environments. And we're just going to blow away this current environment. We're going to, if you double click on the title, we're just going to change this to, we'll call it Konnect-Sandbox. And we're going to change out these variables for the ones that we have in our demo facts. And then I'm actually going to duplicate this, and we're going to do Konnect Dev at the same time. So we'll have to come back in here. Konnect Dev. I need to go grab those facts, so I'm going to grab the Konnect Dev ones, copy those, and paste them in as well. Okay, close that. So make sure you've got for an environment, make sure you've got Konnect-Sandbox selected. Select this first request, get disputes, and we should be able to, well, let's take a look at, there's no body. If you look at the header, you can see it's deposited the key we need, the connect key for Jane, the consumer. So we can go ahead and send this. And you see we're getting data back, but what is this data? This is actually the data defined from the mock-in plugin. So we had 2 examples defined in the API spec. I'm going to go over to design. So for the disputes path, where we retrieve the list, you can see in the example section, we actually created a list, and this is the data being returned by the mock-in plugin. Right there. Same thing if we go to the next endpoint. It's also got the header set. There's no body because it's a GET request. And this data, what is this data? Same thing if we go back to our API spec, we did set an example, and that is the data being returned. So that's it for this video. So just to summarize what we've done. In this third step, we executed the second pipeline that did the governance review. So actually there was a custom review of that API spec, and then it published it to the Konnect-Sandbox runtime group. And what is really cool is we actually were able to leverage the mock-in plugin from Konnect, so we didn't have a formal, we don't have a formal microservice running in Kubernetes for the Sandbox environment at the moment. In the next video, we'll go ahead and see how we can promote this, execute a pipeline that will promote our deck configuration and our API spec up to the dev runtime group. I will see you up there.